Hi, it's Cara. Welcome to a pretty big book haul. So quite a few of these I've either already read this month, like read in January, or I really have my TBR because they're new releases. So I'm gonna try and go through this pretty quickly because there's 28 things here. Let's get going. So these are all things I got in the month of January. First off, we have Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wang. This is a contemporary following Eva, who's Asian American, and her parents sent her to Taipei for the summer after senior year, thinking it's going to be like a learning experience about her culture, and it is, but it's also where a bunch of Asian Americans try to find marriages. It's called Love Boat Taipei. Yeah, I talked about this in my wrap-up. I have already read this one. You can go check out my January wrap-up for info about this. Another book I've already read, we have Blood Countess by Lana Popovich. This is the first in the Lady Slayers collection. We follow Anna, who is a midwife's apprentice, and she gets caught up with Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who is the real-life inspiration for Countess Dracula, like the one that bathes in the blood of virgins for beauty. Yeah, this is a female romance, but very unhealthy, very abusive. I have already read this, so you can find out more about this in my January wrap-up as well. I'm still going on a book I've already read. We have Strange Exit by Parker Peavyhouse. Again, this is in my January wrap-up, so go check out that if you want to learn more about this. But this is a YA sci-fi that is about like the heat death of the earth or nuclear fallout. So a whole bunch of teenagers go to live on a ship in space inside a simulation. Yeah. Book I am currently reading, we have Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore. This is the newest Anna Marie McLemore, and it's a red dancing shoes retelling by Hans Christian Andersen, and it looks at like the dancing plagues of Europe in the medieval kind of era, like 1500s, and I'm really enjoying it so far, but I'm only like not even 100 pages in. I'm 70 pages in. We have Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. This is a fabulism horror story. We follow Sarah, whose sister disappeared on this special road, and she's going with a group of her friends to also walk the road and try and find her, but the road doesn't want you to leave. I know, this sounds so good. I'm so excited to read it. This is, I believe, a 2019 release. I do have a handful of backlist things on this haul. We have Blood Air by Emily Wenzel. This got a lot of controversy on BookTube about it having some slavery elements that were potentially triggering to African American people. But it is an Asian inspired fantasy, and I believe it's exploring slavery in its context there, so I am really interested to pick it up. A lot of the arguments around when the arcs were coming out was about context of these things. So I am really excited to read this. We follow Anastasia, who has a blood magic affinity. I'm excited to read this. Another book I've already read, we have The Seep by Chana Porter. This is a new weird sci-fi. We follow a trans woman, Trina, who's in this new weird world, whose wife has decided to become a literal baby. Yep. Yeah, it's really weird. It's fucking weird. But I really enjoyed it. You can check out my January wrap-up for more information about this one. Another book I read in January, we have Come Tumbling Down by Shauna Maguire. This is the 5th Wayward Children series. In this series, people go through portals into other worlds, but then the Wayward Children are a bunch of kids who've come back to the main normal world, but don't want to be back, would rather be in their portal world. This is obviously the 5th one. I enjoyed it more in my wrap-up. Then we have The Night Country by Melissa Albert. This is the sequel to The Hazelwood, which I read last year, the year before, and I personally really enjoyed it. That was pretty mixed opinion-y at the time. So this is the sequel. Again, read this in January. You can check out my thoughts on it in my January wrap up. This is essentially a fantasy young adult dark fantasy where this girl's grandmother wrote this book of fairy tales that's now gone like underground, and then some weird things come chasing her. Yeah. Reverie by Ryan LaSala. I've also already read this. It's in my January wrap up. This is a queer YA fantasy. We follow Kane, who's lost all his memories, but maybe he can walk in dreams kind of things, and the villain is a drag queen. Check out my wrap up for more info on this as well. Again, see wrap up. This is Scavenge the Stars by Tara Sue. This is the gender bent Count of Monte Cristo retelling. Honestly, I don't even know how else to describe this. It is Asian inspired. I believe the main character is Desi, and the love interest is East Asian, in inspirational influence. Library of the Unwritten by AJ Hackworth. Again, read it. Check out my January wrap up. This is a adult fantasy literary following a library in hell where all the unwritten books go. Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. This is a novella following the Green Man myth. Also read it. Also my January wrap up. Foul is Fair by Hannah Capin. One of my favorite books of the year so far. This is also my January wrap up. I'm trying to, I literally just talked about all these books while filming my January wrap up, and I want to keep this video a lot shorter than that one, so we are rushing pretty fast. But this is a gender bent Macbeth contemporary retelling. Our main character Elle, who goes by Jade most of the book, is raped by a group of boys, and she's going to kill them all. Yeah. Oh, now we're mostly onto books I didn't read in January. Mostly. Yeah. I haven't read any of these in January, though I have read some of them previously. Haven't read before. This Cruel Design by Emily Sveda. This is the sequel to This Mortal Coil, which I did read in January, and you can check out in my wrap up. This is the second book in the trilogy. The third one's coming out very soon. This is a little bit shorter than book one, so I'm excited about that. And it's a science-based dystopian, I'd say. There's like a science element where everyone has technology integrated into their bodies, and you can code your DNA with a computer code, but then also there's a virus which is turning people into zombies. So yeah, this is book 2. A Shadow Bright and Burning by Jessica Cluess. I don't know that much about this. I've never even read the back, but there is, somebody was telling me it's Victorian London. Yeah, which I didn't know originally. And she's the first female sorcerer in ages, the prophesized one. Or am I? She's not the chosen one, but they think she is? I don't know, but it sounds really good, and I picked this up secondhand from YA Buy Swap Sell kind of thing. High Fire by Ian Colfer. This is his first adult series. It's adult fantasy, but the back is 100% what got me, or at least the tagline, which I don't think is on the back. But let me read it out. So it says, Squib Moreau may be a swamp wild, street smart, dark-eyed, Cajun blood tearaway, but his intentions are generally good. He really wants to be a supportive son to his hardworking mama, Elodie. So when Squib is offered an apprenticeship by the local moonshine runner, a summer on the bayou looks like the only way to pay off the family debts and maybe get him and his mama a place in town, far away from crooked constable Regent's Hook's unwanted courtship of Elodie and the ton of debts left by fake daddy before he skipped town on them. Oh, okay, like, none of this has the actual, oh yeah, here it is. Unfortunately for Squib, the crooked constable has his own eye on that very same stretch of bayou, and neither of them have taken into account the dragon hiding out in the Louisiana swamp. It's the dragon that got me, guys. The tagline had a lot more about the dragon, but I can't remember it anymore. Change is coming for Squib Moore and for Vern, aka Lord Highfire, and life in the bayou is never going to be the same again. So we follow like the last dragon, and he's an alcoholic, I think. I don't know, this is adult. I might not like it, I'm not confident, but it's like a contemporary dragon story. Yeah. A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kozlov. I picked this up because the whole series is being fast released over like 4 months between January and April, and they're all pretty chunky. They're all like over 500 pages. Oh no, this is like 460 kind of thing. There's a lot of appendices. Yeah, about 460 pages. It's a high fantasy queendom, I believe. But it is, she's a debut, so obviously she wrote the whole series and then it all got picked up. And it's being done really fast. I don't know that much about the actual plot, but like epic fantasy, and I was really curious. I love these covers. So I'm gonna read this very soon because I will like buy the whole series and read them as they come out if I enjoy book 1. Then we have Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. This is a Bolivian inspired fantasy. I believe it's revenge, a marriage plot, a relic. I don't know, I'm gonna read this real soon in February. I'm so excited for it. It's a Latinx fantasy. I really don't know that much, but the cover like pulled me in and I really didn't care what the actual plot was. Just that it's Latinx and fantasy, and this cover is gorgeous and it looks like, yeah, a lot of revenge kind of plots, which is my jam. The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. This is a historical fiction. We follow a remote Norwegian island and all the men die. Yeah. So it's a place of women. And then one guy comes along, thinks the whole place is evil. I don't know, this sounds so good. I love historical fantasy a lot of the time. And I'm just obsessed with the idea of this, and the cover is gorgeous. Again, I should be reading this in February. It just came out. Actually, it comes out in February. My bookstore somehow got it early, and because I'd like pre-ordered it, I had to go in and collect it before like my order ran out. So I went and got it, but it comes out in February. Next we have 3 books from a series, 2 of which I got to like build up my physical collection because I read a lot of these from the library when I was younger, and then the book that I'm actually up to in the series. So we have Sorcery by Terry Pratchett, which I've already read. These are Discworld books in the Discworld library editions. So we have Sorcery, which I've already read. Weird Sisters, which I've already read. That's a witches one. Sorcery might also be a witches one actually. And Jingo, which is the one I am up to, which is like book 20 something. So Sorcery and Weird Sisters are books 5 and 6, which is what I'm up to in buying the ones I'd never bought. And this is, yeah, Jingo is book 21 in the series of like normal ones, but there's also a couple of like kids ones in there. So it's actually like more like the 24th, because I'm pretty sure the Wee Freeman comes before this. I'm not 100% sure though. I love these Discworld library editions, so I'm collecting them. But yeah, I'm up to Jingo. Can't wait to read this. Then we have Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. This is looking at feminism and teenage sexuality. I believe it's about a bunch of girls who get like sex shamed by their school. So one of the girls was run out of town for accusing the popular boys at school of gang rape, and then they're going to get justice. So this obviously has similar vibes to Fowler's Fair, and I'm really excited to read it. Then we have 3 books that were on my top books of 2019 list that I talked then about that I should just buy them because I listened to them on audiobook, but I loved all 3 of them. So we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio in this beautiful like entirely black edition. This is a Dark Academia Shakespearean story. An Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard. This is a like modern fantasy magicians story. I freaking loved it. Originally it was a standalone, but it's gonna have a sequel. So that's another reason I wanted to buy it, because I'll definitely buy a physical copy of the sequel. I think it's called A Slide of Shadows. And then Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. This is a magic school detective story. Again, I really loved this. It's yellow under the dust jacket. And I absolutely adored the audiobook, so I had to pick up a physical copy. It is adult. But probably a pretty approachable for younger readers. And finally, at the end, at the bottom of this stack, is The Conference of Birds by Ransom Riggs, which is the 5th Miss Peregrine's story. This is like the shortest book in the series. It's like not even 320 pages. It's just over 320 pages, and you've got to consider that there's like photographs throughout this. So it's the shortest in the series so far. Not sure exactly when I'm going to get to it, but I am up to date on this series, so I picked this up. It's a new release. So those are all the books I picked up in the month of January. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I feel a bit bad about it. Now I gotta go put them all away. Though I'm glad I have read already a lot of these, and quite a few more are on my February TBR, so they should be straight off pretty soon. Not many of these are going on my ongoing TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these down below and what you thought of them in a vague, non-spoilery sense. And otherwise, I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!